What's up, whole lifers, and welcome to the Health Over Everything podcast. I am SoCal Gula.
And I am Steven Z. Welcome to the podcast. And today we have a very special guest, Larry Chanez. Welcome, Larry.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Morning.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Today we're going to be talking about Larry's experience with diabetes and how he was able to reverse it. He was saying that you always kind of remain a diabetic, but he has gotten into a manageable area, and where if you took his blood work, he's no longer showing up as a diabetic. So we're going to be talking about his experience with that. And I guess to start it off, Larry, I was curious about, like, were you feeling bad and then you went to the doctors, or was it like a routine checkup where you found out? Like, how did the whole thing kind of come about?
So for me, we had a vacation planned last summer. So, we were heading to Maui in August, and I wanted to lose some weight. So I was at the heaviest I'd ever been in my life. I was up to about 222, which is super heavy for me. I'm not a very tall person. So, um, but
How tall are you?
what's that?
How tall are you?
5'7".
Okay.
Okay.
So pretty heavy, right? I also had scheduled a colonoscopy in September. So vacation in August, colonoscopy in September. So I started to lose some weight, planned, right? Didn't do as well as I wanted to, but I did lose a little weight. I lost maybe like 8 pounds. I wanted to lose 15.
Huh.
But when we got back from vacation, I was like, okay, so I lost 8 pounds. I'm gonna kind of continue with what I was doing. I really wasn't doing much, not as well as I should have been. But one thing I was doing was doing the water trick, right? I was drinking lots of water, and so I continued that, and I noticed I was still losing weight when I got back from vacation. So I think I lost about 20 pounds
Nice.
total. So I lost about 12 pounds after I got back from vacation.
Mhm.
And then I had my doctor's appointment in September, late September. So I went in for routine blood, and in preparation for my appointment, and then I got my results back. I was actually sitting at my daughter's soccer game, and get my results back on my phone, and I look at it and I'm like, oh wow, that's high for blood sugar, and it was red, so
Oh,
I'm like,
shit.
oh, what does that mean? So I go to Google,
Yeah.
I look, and it's like, well, you're diabetic. And I'm like, wow, I had no clue. Like, it was
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was sitting there all alone, at it was actually my daughter's practice. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I'm diabetic. So after practice, I went home, and we did have a blood sugar monitor at home. So I took my blood sugar. Well, prior to practice, I had, nice big burrito from, local spot here. And I took my blood sugar. It was almost 500.
Oh, wow.
Wow. That is
Well,
high. That's
yeah,
fuck.
that's super high.
Woo.
So I was scared, right? I all night I didn't sleep. I actually made a doctor's appointment the next day, and the doctor put me on insulin, put me on medication. We had to talk. So that was difficult.
Yeah.
But prior to, I mean, I think I just kind of masked all of the things. All the signs were there for
Okay.
diabetes. I had, low energy, but especially after I ate.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was, going into a carb coma,
Yeah.
so all the things were there though. The water intake, all those things you hear about, drinking, thirsty, all of that. I was getting up at night, drinking water, but again, I was dieting. Water tasted great. I never felt thirsty, but water just tasted amazing. So I was drinking a ton of water. But to answer your question, the symptoms were there. I didn't recognize them until I see my blood work.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know if it's a guy thing, but like my dad, I know he had something going on because he would always grab like his side every so often, and like I could tell he was in pain, but he'd just be like, but he never went to the doctors. I think guys have a thing where they could kind of put their head in the sand, and like, I'm all right, or kind of like, just push through the pain and suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think for sure, we mask those symptoms, and
Mhm.
just think they're normal, right? Especially like at my age, I'm 40. I'll be 49 in a couple months. So you know, you just chalk it up to, oh, I'm just getting older.
Yeah, exactly.
The body's changing, and then I mean, I knew I was out of shape, so um, part of being out of shape and overweight, you just make excuses also for feeling the way you do.
Mhm.
And I didn't know the weird thing is I didn't know diabetes ran in my family, so
Okay.
my parents didn't have diabetes, so I was like, okay, I didn't think that was something else to have to deal with. You know, other things, yeah, you know, high blood pressure, cholesterol, things that run in the family, but diabetes was never on my radar.
How was your how was your blood pressure as well?
So my blood pressure's been elevated probably for the last 10 years. It was usually in like 138 over like 95 is what it was before.
Okay.
You know.
And now
Has
how
that
is
come
it
down
now?
to?
Currently my blood pressure's great. I'm like right around maybe like 110, 115 over
Oh,
like
nice.
172. So
Right
right,
around where you should be.
right where it should be. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Nice.
amazing. We'll talk about diet, but it's easily the biggest change was my blood pressure.
So like what other symptoms did you feel? Like you said you feel a little tired, you felt thirsty. Did you feel anything like with your heart like pulsating or something like that? Do you have headaches or what other symptoms were there?
So the low energy, obviously like walking, getting tired, shortness of breath, all of those things. But again, I was overweight, so I was just chalking it up to, yeah, I need to get in shape, right? Um, my eyesight's been changing over the last couple of years, but then again, my parents wore glasses, so I'm like, I'm in my 40s, eyesight's changing,
Mm.
but that's a symptom.
Mm.
So what happens when when you're diabetic? Just a quick little background is you don't have the ability, your insulin's not working. I have type 2 diabetes, by the way.
Okay.
So your insulin's broken basically, right? It's not working, it's malfunctioning, and you're not able to process the glucose in your blood. So uh, your blood starts to thicken, and because it's not able to process, generally, as your body converts your energy or carbs into sugar, glucose, that's the energy that all your blood cells get. But when it's not, your insulin's not working. Insulin's like the key that goes into every cell. So you need the insulin to get that sugar into your cells to get the energy. So that's why the lack of energy, but also your blood thickens. So that's,
Mm.
lethargic. That's why diabetics have a lot of issues with high blood pressure, cholesterol issues, because their body's not working right with the blood.
Mm.
So that's why you pee, because you are peeing out your protein basically. So
Oh,
all
okay.
these symptoms were there. And so that's where, and then the eyesight's actually a big one too, because of the way your blood thickens, and it affects the nerves in your eyes. So it, swells up the nerves, and your eyesight starts to deteriorate or be affected. That's why diabetics can go blind. So
Yeah.
if you don't get your diabetes under control, then you can affect your eyesight for the long term. So luckily, I would say I caught my diabetes fairly early.
Nice.
So no long-term effects because of the diabetes, which is great, right?
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
So I wanted to ask, so when you found out when you were actually at your daughter's game, did it kind of hit you then, or was it when you got the reading for 500?
The soccer practice, it hit me, right? Being out of shape and overweight, I knew that, obviously not good for your health. So when I
Yeah.
seen it, I was shocked, to be honest with you. That was the biggest effect of the diabetes was just knowing that I had it.
Hmm.
Um, and I literally sat there for about an hour, just, scared.
Mm.
Um, and then when I found out later on, obviously that was kind of like, wow, I was really scared, because you go on Google and you see all the horror stories, right? Like
Yep.
500 sugar levels, like stroke, heart attack. Now,
Yeah.
now I understand a little bit better. Like, yes, 500 is bad, but it's over a long period of time. It can do damage to you. Over the short period, um, if you catch it early, make changes, it's not going to affect your long term as much as it would if you didn't do anything at all.
Yeah, you lose
Gotcha.
your feet and everything. right?
Yeah, and that's again the circulation, the blood. It's all has that's what it all has to do, the nerve
Did you
ending. So,
did you feel any like tingling in your feet or anything like that?
no, not at all. I mean, you know what I did feel? A lot of brain fog, right?
Oh, okay.
Mm.
So you eat a lot of brain fog. I think there was some sensation changes. I think, I think there was some things that were there. Not tingling in my feet, but more like in my brain, to be honest with you. I think it's
Oh,
the
okay.
way the blood circulates to the brain. I think it really it affected my brain,
Hmm.
which is scary.
Nice. So you must feel pretty good now then.
I do. I feel great. I'll be honest with you. Some days I don't though. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like um just the change. If I do add something to my diet, it does have a quick effect. Maybe I don't.
Mhm.
I talk to my doctor. I don't really understand why, but there are days. I mean, they're very very far between. So maybe once or twice a month, where I'll just feel kind of tired or off. But
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, I feel awesome. Tons of
Maybe
energy.
maybe that's just from becoming old. That's the actual old age setting in.
Well, that's the one thing I can't reverse is aging,
Yeah.
right?
You can slow it down, but you can't reverse it. Nope.
Yeah.
Um, what about did you eat like a lot of sugar, or was it like do you think the diabetes came from just eating processed foods, or was it sugar, or you eat a lot of junk food, or what was it from? You think?
So diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is actually hereditary.
No, okay.
Um, so now that's why people could eat sugar and carbs their whole life and never have diabetes if it doesn't run in their family. But if you have it in your family, um, there's a chance you can get diabetes. Even healthy people with a healthy diet can still develop type 2 diabetes. So because it ran in my family, obviously I had a higher chance of getting type 2 diabetes. I wasn't a big sugar eater. I'm a big carb eater, right? I love rice, potatoes, being, Mexican American, rice with everything, tortillas, all of the good stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, but not sugar. Not a big sweet person.
Mm.
So basically, you think it was because you said it's hereditary, um, but you lost weight. So I heard something about like hereditary is like only like 20 to 30% of the equation. So even though it's hereditary, the main thing was like just the weight gain and like over long periods of time of just like kind of like it's hereditary, but by eating bad for long periods of time and gaining the weight, kind of like sets off the DNA like to
Yeah,
like do it.
yeah, no, absolutely. Healthy or unhealthy diet, lifestyle is definitely gonna increase your risk for type 2 diabetes. So yeah, my diet was horrible. You
Mhm.
know, not only did I eat the wrong carbs, right? A lot of processed food, a lot of fast food. I work for most of my career. I worked out in the field, so it's so easy to drive through a drive-through rather than pack a
Mhm.
healthy lunch.
Definitely, I
Um,
know that.
yeah, and then even where I work now, there's not a lot of well, I mean, I do bring my lunch now, but it's just easy to just drive out and go to the drive-through. So
Yeah.
my diet was terrible. But yeah, I mean, we'll get into a little bit of the diet, but the changing of the diet was the biggest thing for me.
Nice. How long did it actually take from like, from you actually getting the diagnosis and doing your lifestyle changes? How long did it take you to get it back into a normal kind of blood or normal range for your blood sugar levels?
So this is the exciting part. It took me 3 months.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah, which is amazing, right? I did finally get off my medicine just on Monday, but that was only because we were kind of titrating down on the medicine
hmm.
just to
Yeah.
see what the effects were. They didn't want to just pull me off because didn't want to have a major reversal.
Yeah, they have to go back up. Yeah.
Yeah, so by January, I was diagnosed late September, and by January, my blood work was pretty normal. Actually
Nice.
extremely normal. So yeah, 3 months, and I lost overall from August when I started losing those 8 pounds we talked about. I lost a total of 61 pounds now today. I just weighed myself. So
Nice.
um,
Oh,
Congrats.
how much you weigh now?
so now I am 161 as of this morning.
Nice. 161. Damn.
Yeah. So
All the way
I've
from
plateaued
220.
though.
Huh?
Yeah, I
I said all the way
plateaued.
from 220.
Yeah, 220 down to one
Dang.
222 to 161. But I've plateaued. So my weight loss has slowed down.
Hmm.
And I've kind of been between, 164 and 161. But I've been working out. I started working out maybe about 5 weeks ago, and
Nice.
just home stuff. Just I have a couple 20-pound dumbbells, doing push-ups, calisthenics. Just I lost a lot of muscle with the 60 pounds.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, okay, I need to start doing something. I've never been a gym person, so I was like, okay, let me do something that I can have success with. And that's when I just started working out with my dumbbells, and now I probably, if I wasn't to work out, I probably would have lost another maybe 5 pounds, but now I'm putting on muscle. So
Yep. Yeah, that muscle definitely weighs a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, plus I feel like with working out, like I've always heard when you're losing weight and you're not exercising, it's like you're not giving your body the signal to kind of maintain the muscle. So it's like, all right, well, we're losing weight. We'll get rid of this. We're not using this, so let's just get rid of it. So it's good that you are actually starting to work out. It's going to give you more energy. You're going to feel better,
Yeah.
be able to
Um,
eat more.
yeah. And the great thing is, I mean, back to the start of the journey, right? I had to figure out what I was going to eat. I mean,
Hmm.
that's, with every diagnosis, whatever it may be, you have to figure out the lifestyle change.
Yeah.
So I figured out a diet that worked for me. I mean, the most important thing for me is, just like most people, food is like a religion, right? We
Yep.
love food. It's so mental, all the things that we know. Um, but I had to kind of think about a diet that made sense, that I could do long term, that I still had all the flavors of the food that I enjoyed. I love to cook, so cooking, for me is almost like it just helps me deal with stress. So on Fridays, I love to cook. So I just started making meals that I knew were going to be in the same flavor profile, but I would just take some of the carbs out, or take all the carbs out initially. I really went like cold turkey on sugar, cold turkey on carbs,
Okay.
um, and then just found I've been telling people I found 5 meals that I enjoy, and I just stick to those 5 meals, and they just have the same flavor profile that I totally like. So again, Mexican food, my favorite. So I just yeah, stick to the flavor profile, and then it doesn't seem like I've changed my diet much. I've just taken out, the tortillas. I've replaced them with keto friendly tortillas,
All
carb
right.
ones, and I'll just do one. You know, I've replaced rice. I really don't eat much rice, but if I do, I'll do brown rice, and I'll just do maybe a couple teaspoons or tablespoons, I mean, of rice, just to get the flavor.
Yeah.
And then everything else, a lot of protein, a lot of vegetables. Well, it's funny because I have one meal that's my go-to. I do a chicken verde pozole, which
Nice.
has a hominy, which is carbs, but it's a really low glycemic index.
Okay.
Okay.
So my body can basically burn through those carbs pretty quickly. So you'll see a spike, but I generally try to keep my carbs under 20 grams per meal, which is recommended. So yeah, just coming figuring out a diet. And then even when I'm on the road, like I figured out a diet that makes sense. So I do Chipotle, I do the proteins and just beans. If I do rice, I'll do brown rice, very little. And
Oh,
then I don't eat it. I just kind of skim through it, and just to kind of have it there.
yeah.
Like, again, food's mental, so it's like, okay, I know the rice is there. I can have a little bit if I want, or I don't have to have any at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just coming up with things that are successful for me.
What about steak? Are you still eating? Do you eat steak?
I do eat, yeah, I do eat all my proteins. So I'll eat
Nice.
steak, chicken, pork, and then again, just try to mix it in with some vegetables. I do salads, but again, I don't want to be on a salad diet, so I'll do
Mm.
1 or 2 salads a week. Um,
Eggs.
because if I make it so strict, then I'm not going to be successful. And I think that's the
Yeah,
Yeah.
most
exactly.
important thing, is you gotta make your diet so that you can do it long term. If you go on it can't be a fad diet for me, because this is a lifetime. I have to be able to maintain this diet for a long time.
Yeah. I feel like that's where most people go wrong. They try to like, either the carnivore or keto or no carbs. And I've had several people ask me like, what am I doing? What do you recommend? Will keto work for me? And I don't think people necessarily like the answer, but I'm always like, do whatever diet that you could be consistent with. I'm like, because it doesn't matter if I tell you the best diet out there. If you
Yeah,
can't maintain it and stick with it, there's no point of me having you do it. Like find something that works for you, like you said, because that's going to give you the longevity, and consistency is going to be able, that's what gives you the results, is being able to stick with it over a period of time.
absolutely. Totally agree.
What about eggs? You eating eggs still too?
Yeah,
Eggs are
yeah.
really good.
So the one thing about me was my cholesterol was actually pretty good. So I didn't have
Okay.
cholesterol. Um, so yeah, I do eggs, make really nice omelets in the morning.
Love eggs.
Yeah, I
Same here.
cheese, I do cheese still. So yeah, I mean I do have to be careful with that stuff. Diabetics do tend to have higher cholesterol. They do develop high blood pressure. So those are things I have to monitor, but right now everything's great and I hope to maintain that. But I do not that I'm trying to be low fat, but I do a lot of like my chicken pozole really doesn't have much fat. It's chicken
Yeah.
breast, all the green chilies and stuff,
Yeah.
and then the broth. So I do that a lot. Unfortunately, my wife makes fun of me because I'm always making it. Usually every week I make a big pot. It's funny because it's super cheap too. I can do this meal in
Nice.
about $25 and it'll last. It probably makes about 20 servings. So cheap, right? $1 a
Yeah,
serving.
Larry can cook. I've had some of his food. I used to pig out over there too. I'm like, woo, go back for seconds and thirds.
Yeah, absolutely. I still grill. I still enjoy, you know, smoking on my Traeger,
Nice.
laptop. I got just my regular grill. So I'm always outside cooking, now that the weather is clearing up. So
Yeah.
yeah, just doing a lot of protein meals with veggies. And then I do, I found out that potatoes don't really spike my sugar. So I'll do a
Okay.
baked potato. Um,
Sweet
yeah,
potatoes?
I do sweet potatoes. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of sweet potatoes, being the carb guy that I love my white starchy foods, but I do sit now sweet potatoes. Yeah.
How do you know if something is low glycemic?
So I just did research. There's if you just Google low glycemic or GI diets, low GI diet, you can find a lot of foods that are low glycemic. It's interesting though. Fruit is has sugar,
Yeah.
right? Yep. If you kind of pay attention, like for instance, a banana. If you eat a banana that's not 100% ripe, the glycemic index can be low. But as it ripens, it actually gets higher because
Mm.
the sugars start to develop as it ripens. So it can be much higher. So just kind of understanding that, doing research. Um, and then for me, also is I have my blood sugar monitor. So I'll eat a meal, I'll find out what it does to my blood sugar and then understand what it does it, and maybe I'll take it out. I won't do it again, or
Mm.
I'll be like, okay, that wasn't too bad. Let me do that. It's like tacos, for instance, right? Like who doesn't love tacos? So okay, maybe I don't do 4 tacos, maybe I do two, right? Maybe I don't do the 2 tortillas, maybe I just do the one.
Yeah.
But just understanding the effects on that, and I obviously can't do it all the time. So I still have a cheat meal. You got to still have those meals that are like, okay, it's again, this diet is long term, so you can't make it so rigid that
Mhm.
you're gonna fail, because just like anything else, if you make it so rigid that you don't want to do it, you're not gonna do it.
Yeah, exactly.
What about salt? Do you like, I know that's not like sugar or anything, but do you put a lot of salt on your food for like maybe your blood pressure? Like just,
So I do salt. My sodium levels were low, like on the
Mm.
borderline low. So I spoke to my doctor about that, and he just said, just increase your salt take, but be aware. So yeah, I have to manage all that. I do see my doctors every 3 months, so making sure I understand the effects of salt, all the other effects, or dietary things that I eat. I have to make sure that it doesn't have any long-term effects. So I watch my blood results very carefully.
And you have like a continuous glucose monitor on you, or
Yeah, I do. It's called a Dexcom 7, and it's just right here in the back of my arm. I have a long sleeve on. You can't see it, but
yeah.
just a little small catheter device that actually hooks up to my phone, so I can see my glycemic index on my phone. It actually gives you alerts. So if I have a meal and my blood sugar spikes above 180, then it'll give me an alert. Actually, it gives me a low alert too. I've noticed that at night, sometimes I'll drop down into 70s, kind of low range. So I'll drop down to 70.
That's
Um,
cool.
and yeah, so it'll give me alerts. I can trend it. It sends me a report, how I've done. Actually gives you kind of an average of your A1C. So yeah, that was another thing. My A1C was, when I first was diagnosed, was 11.7. Now I'm down to 5.4, which is great. It's pretty much in the normal range for A1C.
What is A1C?
Um, you know what? That's a great question. I know for me, it's just another way to track how you're doing with your diabetes. But
Okay.
as far as I don't know exactly what, how
Oh,
that
it's a
kind of,
medical terminology.
yeah.
Is the device pretty flush with your skin, or do you have to worry about snagging it on things?
It sticks out maybe 1/8 of an inch,
Oh,
so
okay.
All right.
not too bad.
You haven't ever pulled it out or anything?
No, it has a pretty good adhesive.
Okay.
And they only last 10 days. So
Uh,
because of the adhesive, they I have to replace it every 10 days. It just has an injector. I pull this one off and I injector, I just push on it, sticks the catheter. Catheter's maybe 1/8 of an inch also, maybe a little bit longer than that, maybe 1/4 of an inch.
okay.
Um, and then it just goes in just right underneath the skin and
Gotcha.
monitors. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
You shower, doesn't come off during the shower or nothing?
Waterproof.
Okay.
You can swim with it. So yeah, it's a great tool for diabetics.
I've heard like people that don't have diabetes actually using it too, just because they're just to just see what their food does to them, you know?
Yeah, so I've been seeing some advertisements now that I'm diabetic, right? I get all the advertisements on my social media. So
Target.
I see some companies are making them now just for diet people that are dieting.
Yeah. So I kind
That's
of
kind of cool.
would like to get one. How much? Where do you get them at?
Actually I have a prescription for mine, so I
Oh.
just got through my doctor.
Mhm.
But the ones on social media, I think you can just order them direct. I don't know how well they work, but the one I use, I'm very happy with. Again, it's called Dexcom 7. I think without the prescription, they're pretty expensive.
Mhm.
Mm.
For probably a month supply, you're looking at maybe $1,000 a month.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
that is a
Yeah.
lot.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I'll just get my diet in order.
I don't want to know
Don't,
that bad.
don't get diabetes, guys, because it turns to be expensive, especially if you don't have insurance.
It
Yeah.
can. One thing you can do is just get the regular glucose monitor, the ones where you just
Yeah.
Yeah.
that one's, to be honest with you, I was doing that for the first maybe month or two,
Mhm.
and not a big deal.
Yeah, I
Just
have one of those.
so after you eat about an hour after tested, and that's usually when it takes about 30 minutes to 60 minutes for your blood sugar to spike.
Mm. So I had a
And
question going into your diet a little bit. I feel like diet is one of those things where, there's this huge mental aspect around it because you get around, get used to eating like certain foods you're just comfortable with eating, your stress foods and all that. What were some of like your bigger mental obstacles that you had to go through with changing, your lifestyle and your diet?
so the diet is probably, I think it's mostly mental, right? Like, but the biggest thing for me was the carbs, the sugar actually work like a drug.
Hmm.
I'll get into the mental, but really, my body was going through withdrawals with the
Okay.
sugar and the carbs.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
bet.
so that's the mental part, though, right? When you feel sick because you're not getting that sugar,
Hmm.
that's where you want to quit, because you're like, okay, I'm doing something healthy, but I feel terrible. So
Yeah.
after I started my diet, which was pretty much immediately the next day when I found out, about maybe within 7 days, I started to feel sick as a dog. I was literally nauseous. I couldn't get out of bed. And I'm like, what is going on? So that's the mental part, right? So your body is telling you that you don't feel good and you have to get over that hump. I think it's pretty common for anybody who's cutting out something out of their body, whether it's sugar, alcohol, drugs, whatever it may
Yeah.
be. So that's why it's so hard to kick alcohol, because you stop alcohol and you're feeling, terrible. And it's like, well, if I just have a beer, I'll feel better. So you just go
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
so same thing with sugar. And so about 2 weeks, I felt terrible. One of the interesting things is actually my eyesight got really bad about 7, 8 days into it. Literally, where I woke up and everything was blurry. I couldn't see anything, couldn't see the
Wow.
TV, couldn't see, So that was interesting to me, which is what I found out is actually normal, because it's your blood sugar. So you're on a high, right? Your body adjusts to high blood sugar. Once you remove the sugar, your blood sugar goes down. Now your body has to adjust to low blood sugar again, because it's just, it's the fantastic body that we have, right? It
Yeah.
adjusts to all these things.
Hmm.
So my eyesight had adjusted to the high blood sugar. Well, now low blood sugar, so my eyes got terrible. So again, all these things make it's all part of the mental part, right? These
How
things are.
long did that last year? The eyesight, the blurriness.
Yeah. Did they get better too? Like, are they good now?
Yeah, yeah. It lasted 2 to 3 days, maybe. I
Wow.
think it happened on a weekend,
That's
but
still a long time.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That's definitely.
yeah. So then now I'm dealing with that, right? But the physical part, which starts with the mental.
Hmm.
Um, I'll be honest though, the mental part for me, because I feel like I'm still young, right? 48 years old. I have younger kids. My youngest is 12. So I went cold turkey. I told my doctor I'm going to cold turkey. I told myself I'm going cold turkey. Getting over the physical part was hard. But starting the new diet and the new lifestyle, and it was actually very easy.
Mhm.
Because my focus was on, hey, I have to be here. I also have a daughter with special needs,
Mm.
17-year-old. So, I would like to say I didn't do this for myself. I did this for my family, because I have to be here.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing for me. So yeah, it was hard, but it wasn't that hard. It is
Yeah.
Yeah.
starting a diet when it doesn't affect your health is much harder, because now it's just for you, right? I need to lose the weight for me. But for me, I was like, I need to lose the weight for my family.
Yep.
So that part was very, very easy. Now, I do have to say, I struggle to say that, right? Because it may
Yeah.
be, but I know a lot of people struggle, even with diabetes, with changing their diet. Now that I've been diabetic now for the last, what, 8 months or so,
Yeah.
um, I found out a lot of people have diabetes that I know, or family members, and they ask me the same question: how were you able to change your lifestyle? And because like their dad can't, or they struggle with it. So I know it's very hard, and
Yeah.
I don't want to make light of the fact that it's
Yeah.
hard to change diet, even with the diagnosis. But for me, it was easy. Now it's long term, right? I got to maintain this for the next, however many more years I'm on this earth, I have to maintain this diet. But I think the changing of my diet will keep me here longer. So that's
Mhm.
the focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like we always say too, like the power of like being scared to death, like you're gonna die, and also the
Nothing
power.
motivates you like that.
Yes, and then the power of love, of just the family and the love that you get from them, and to be there for them, like that is a huge power to change, because if it wasn't for those two things, most likely you wouldn't have changed, or most people won't change, like.
Yeah.
100%.
It
You have
reminds me of a quote too, where I don't know if it's a quote, but or more of a saying where they say, when your why is big enough, like the how is irrelevant. And like,
Mhm.
and I think, you having your kids and your family, your why was so big that the how, it didn't matter to you. You're like, I'm gonna do it because, I got to be there for my family. Um,
Mhm.
and I went through something similar when I stopped drinking for like Stevie, because my dad, he passed away from drinking alcohol. And so I saw myself going down a similar path. Like, do I want to keep drinking until the point where, my liver's going out and then I'm gonna pass when Stevie's in, when he's 18. And so that was like kind of the eye opener, and maybe like a big piece of the puzzle for me was like, do I want to be here for my son? And so yeah, just saying that, like, having kids could be a huge motivator. Doing something outside of yourself, it helps.
Yeah, I mean that's true. When you start your family, you have to become selfless, right? And you're the way you live your life, you change. Single, yeah, if I was a single person and I was diagnosed with diabetes, I don't know that I would make the change. So uh, being a father, I'm the sole provider. My wife stays at home with the kids. Again, I have a child with disabilities, so that's her full-time job.
Mhm.
But yeah, I have to be here. So that was the big motivator. I told my doctor I'm going cold turkey and I'm gonna do all these things, and he looked at me like, I'm sure he hears it. He's a
Yeah,
doctor.
I heard this before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when I went to see him after my 6 month for my 6 month checkup, he didn't recognize me. And
Yeah.
I said, hey, doctor, remember I told you? He's like, you're doing great. I go, I told you I was gonna go cold turkey. Oh, you did. You did tell me that. And he's like, yeah, good for you, obviously. But
Yeah.
it's I think the motivators are always, if they're there and they're in line, then it makes it easier. But again, I don't want to make light of it because it's very difficult.
That's
Mhm.
true.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard too, because like you said, people going through similar situations, or they know someone going through a similar situation. And even for me, like, I feel like it's hard to give those people advice because, what works for me may not necessarily work for anyone else. And it's kind of hard to get somebody to change if they're not willing to, or I just don't know about it. Like, especially diet and nutrition, it's hard to get someone to change their whole lifestyle if they're not willing to kind of struggle and be uncomfortable for a while. Because there's the process, that's part of the process of being uncomfortable and going through the struggle to kind of get to the end goal.
Yeah, and you see it in America, all over America. Like diabetes is a huge problem. Like ever since this processed foods and stuff started coming out in the 80s and stuff, like more and more people are getting diabetes. It's spiking like every year. There's children that are getting diabetes now
Mhm.
more than ever. So, it's like almost like you're just so used to it, especially when you're eating like that since a child all the way till an adult. Like, how do you eat different? Like, it's so hard. We're doing it 20, 30 years.
Mhm. Exactly.
It's the processed foods are probably the worst, right? Like we know that. I mean, it's
Hmm.
not a it's not a it's not a mystery that processed foods are terrible. And
Yep.
and to be honest with you, I probably haven't had many processed foods since this whole journey.
Hmm.
um, because of that, because they do tend to spike blood sugar, and it's longer lasting. So your body can't process it, right? It's foreign to your body.
Yeah.
Whole foods, um, your body understands it. It's got it has all the makeup of what it should be. But then if you add processed foods to it, your body just really doesn't know what to do with it. So it takes longer for your body to break it down, which is why we gain weight, right?
Yep.
On
Mhm.
a high processed food diet, it stores it, it does weird things with it, it spikes your blood sugar, it doesn't do what it naturally should do with, fruit, vegetables, meats, so I, not that I needed to understand it, we all are told that, but the problem is what processed foods are cheap, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
grew up super poor,
Hmm.
so that's all I grew up on was processed foods
Yeah.
because that's the cheapest thing. To eat healthy is expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to the market and go buy, fruits and vegetables, and meat, it's expensive. You're probably paying at least, if not double, for healthy food compared to cheap processed food. So, and the same thing, fast food. It's not, well, fast food's not cheap anymore, but
Yeah.
but it's easy to get.
Yeah.
It markets to poorer families. So, growing up poor, what do? We ate what was cheap because that's all we could afford. And unfortunately, that's why there's an adverse effect of poor people and diabetes. Those are
Yeah.
the people tend to get, these types of diseases, right? High blood
Yep.
pressure, all
Mhm.
all of these things tend to affect the poorer communities, and I'm a product of that.
Yeah, and you also see too, like Jack in the Box will have the fast food restaurants, they'll have like EBT accepted here, but you don't see it like at the Whole Food Market and stuff. They don't have EBT signs out there. So that's another thing mentally and marketing wise, I just thought of right now.
Yeah, no, it's diabetes is an epidemic, right? Like you
Yeah.
said, um, the hereditary part's a portion of it, but our diet's the biggest part, right? So that's why I think I mean, the message for me is you can reverse the effects of diabetes with diet. That's the biggest thing, the biggest message that I want to convey. Is it easy? No. Is it, a big lifestyle change? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if somebody like me, I'm just a normal guy, if I can do it, somebody who's had a lifetime of poor eating, can do it, then anybody can do it, you just have to have that focus. Um, and, and then again, like, does it need to be expensive? Not really. Again, my meal, my pozole, $25 and, feeds 20 servings, and that's $1 a serving. You can't get any cheaper than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Now,
powerful message, like your story.
yeah, yeah, and then even, the proteins, as you, just like any other diet, right? As you start to diet, you start to lose weight, you start to eat less. So, what I used to eat before, my portions are much smaller now. So, right,
Mm.
just managing my portion. But then again, having the food that you like, that's the most important thing, whatever that may be. Having the food that you enjoy. I
Mhm.
do a lot of salsas, salsas are great, so just making sure that you have a diet where you still have the same flavor, and you're not losing that. That was the important thing for me.
And it's like the part of like your message is too is like it's incredible what the body can do. Like you think that like you have diabetes, you're screwed, like there's nothing you could do, but there is things you could do. The body will adjust and it can get better. Like the body is miraculous. It's crazy what it can
Yeah.
do. It's trying to survive, that you're not even thinking about it, but your body's sitting there trying to survive 24/7. It's doing all these things to help you survive. That's why it kind of um like basically like when you're eating bad, it kind of adjusts to that. And then when, because it's just like, hey, we're gonna survive, we're gonna do these weird things. But like you can get out of that and become like healthy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, 100%.
Yeah, it's crazy that you were able to kind of get it manageable in 3 months. I think when
Yeah.
I was thinking, I'm like, oh, it's probably 6 months or a year, but you went all in. You're like, I'm done, I'm changing, and 3 months, like that's crazy. Congratulations on that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's a great point for anybody who's kind of on the same journey as me. Is it can be that quick. Again, I was starting to go up in all my sizes, clothes. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be prepared to be, overweight, overweight adult. Like I'm not, I tied it to my age, right? Oh, it's just harder. I'm getting older, weight's piling on.
Hmm.
Um, but it was really my diet. Everything
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
yeah, it does your age, I'm not as active. I do sit in office for 10 hours a day, Monday through Thursday. So yeah, all those things don't help, but I've
Yeah.
also lost 60 pounds with the same activity. Well, I did start walking a lot more, but I
Mm.
didn't really change. To lose the weight, I didn't change that much other than my diet. And now again, working out, I've seen my body change now because of the muscle that I'm gaining back. But
Nice.
um, I don't, I'm not doing a lot of cardio, which is,
Mm.
one thing. I do have a Peloton that's sitting there with probably
Yeah.
clothes hanging on it right now, but basically been the diet, and now just adding a little bit of the calisthenics and weight training. But even with the weights and working out, my philosophy is make it easy. So I have these
Yeah.
20 pound dumbbells in my garage, and I probably have maybe a dozen different, kind of workouts with them.
Mhm.
And just, looking on social media again, just looking for ways to work out with dumbbells. And
Nice.
yeah, it has to be easy. So I go in there, I probably will do maybe 4 sets throughout the day. So when I wake up in the morning before I go to work, I'll go in and do maybe three different exercises with them, maybe four. And then when I come home, I'll do another one. Whenever if I'm doing laundry, they're sitting right there, I'll do, something as I'm
Right.
putting clothes in the laundry and this, in the washer or dryer. So I'll work out maybe 4 times throughout the day,
Yeah.
just doing reps of, 20.
Nice.
What I'm just doing burnout reps now. So
Yeah.
because it's lightweight, so I'm just doing my whatever exercise I'm doing, I'm just doing it until I burn out.
And I heard
Right.
that building muscle kind of helps like regulate your blood sugar levels or something, insulin, because
Yeah.
it takes more, I don't know, like instead of you're just like no muscle, like the muscles help you sleep better, helps your metabolism and stuff like that.
Yeah, the metabolism part's the key, right? You got to be able to burn those calories as you work out. Your muscles are still burning calories even when you're sleeping.
Yeah, exactly.
It helps regulate your blood sugar, 100%. Yeah, extra diet and exercise is the key.
Yeah.
Again, I'm doing a ton of cardio, which I will eventually add cardio in. But I am doing a little bit of weights now. And when I do my weights, I'll go for they're literally 5 minutes sessions, but my heart rate gets crazy up because I don't stop. I go straight 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
it's like doing cardio.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you one thing about alcohol. Did you drink alcohol a lot or not at all, or how does that affect it?
I did drink, just like most 20-year-olds and drank a lot in my 20s, 30s pretty moderately. As I got into my 40s, not so much. I mean, I still drink. I actually still drink today.
Does that
But
spike your blood sugar?
the interesting thing about it, and I didn't know this, it actually lowers your blood sugar when you're drinking, depending on the alcohol. So
Crazy.
I will
Blood
do,
thinner.
Yeah,
yeah,
that
basically.
yeah.
Um, I didn't know this. I actually went to go have a beer with a friend one day, and I did, like a Michelob Ultra or whatnot.
Oh, okay.
I was watching my monitor, and I'm like, oh, I'm waiting for it to spike. It actually went down, and I was like, oh, that's
What's
interesting.
going on?
So I
Let
Googled,
me have another one.
It'll go
so I
lower.
Googled it, and it actually, I read some articles that say actually alcohol can if for a moment it can actually
Yeah. And this ain't a recommendation to go eat a crumble cookie and then a beer after. And I think you're gonna balance it out like that. Yeah.
That's the secret.
Yeah, but back to your question, I don't drink much. I
Oh,
might have a couple beers, maybe once a week, if that.
no,
Maybe,
okay.
yeah, maybe a couple beers every 2 weeks. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's not
not
nothing. Yeah.
yeah. And then if I do, I'll do super light beers with low carbs. So I'm very mindful. For instance, a Michelob Ultra has like what 3 carbs.
Yeah.
But a Modelo has 13 carbs, right?
Mm.
So I
Okay.
don't drink the Modelo, the Michelob Ultra.
And I think about
Nice.
the sweet ones like puckers, like
Yeah.
Those are the
The
girly drinks.
yeah, the seltzers again don't have a lot of carbs, if any.
Yeah.
Some of them don't have any, some of them have very few. So not that I'm a big seltzer guy, but I have them, just in case. And then the light alcohols, right? The vodkas and stuff like that. So I don't, again, I'm not a big drinker, but
well,
if I want to have a vodka soda, hey, I'll have a vodka soda.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, so during your first week of making your diet adjustment where you're fighting all those urges, did you kind of always have like your family in mind to kind of help you power through that? Or was there any kind of specific mental things you were doing to kind of remind yourself, like, when your body's telling you go back in the kitchen, get some junk food or get some bread or whatever, your thoughts were. Was there any kind of tool you used to kind of get yourself like back into the mindset of like, no, we're doing this? Anything like that?
I'm a huge family guy, so my family's everything. It was really my family, but here's
Okay.
the thing. When I get the urge, and I still get an urge, right, every now and again, I'll just because you got to make it successful.
Mhm.
So my urge would be, oh, hey, I would love to have a burrito, right? Okay, I'll go get my carb-friendly burrito or a carb-friendly tortilla, and I could make killer food. So I'll just make the meal that I want.
Mm.
And so I satisfy the urge with the change in my diet, just understanding with what foods I can manage in my diet. And I don't feel like I'm missing anything. So that's why I think it's been so easy for me, is because I don't think that I've had to um, sacrifice flavor
Okay.
Yeah.
for food, right? Fast food, yeah, I've had one hamburger in the last 8 months, and it spiked my blood sugar. Like I think it was like 220. So I'm like, oh, okay, don't want to do that anymore. But
Yeah.
can I have a protein style burger at In-N-Out? Yeah, I
Yeah.
can.
Did
Okay.
you feel bad after having that burger too? Did you notice any changes in your body?
No, I didn't actually.
Okay.
I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel bad for doing it either. Um, but I just understood, right?
Noticed it.
It's just an understanding. I think you have to understand, like, hey, even if I did mix in a bad meal, right? Just understand, hey, okay, it's gonna do what it's gonna do, but just get right back on it, on your diet. So I've only had pasta once I think. Yeah, since this.
Okay.
Um, so understanding, okay, pasta is probably not something that I'm gonna, have a lot of. But if I want to have a pasta plate, sure, go have a pasta plate. Don't eat it all. Eat half of it.
Yeah.
Mix in a big nice salad with it. Um, and and don't be afraid of having a meal that's gonna throw you off your diet. So it's I get it with, like, alcoholics, like you can't really drink, right? If you're a recovering alcoholic, like
Mhm.
one drink
Yeah.
is not good. And maybe for diets, for some people it's the same, but I've also kind of come to the conclusions, like, hey, if I'm out with friends, do I really want to be one of the weirdos who brings my own food? No, I'll
Yeah,
just,
Steven.
yeah,
I will. I'll do it.
but
Even went to a funeral and bring his own food and just recently.
I did it in the beginning, but again, I understand what the effects are of food, so I'll just have a small portion. We had friends over yesterday, and we ordered pizza,
Uh,
big old nice pizza, one of my favorite pizzas, and I just had a small
love pizza.
slice and big salad, and then I snacked on some cheese or something after. That was it. So
Yeah.
just managing it. Normally, I would have had probably 4 or 5 slices of pizza,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and then washed it down with 4 or 5 beers, but just making sure I can manage for the long term.
Yeah, I love that too because it's like you're doing 95, I don't know, 90, 95, 99% even like, but I love pizza, I love pasta. Like I can't even think of it like, oh, I'm gonna go the rest of my life without ever eating a piece of pizza again. No, I'm doing 95% right. And one time my friends come over, I'll eat a piece of pizza. Like to get that taste and that flavor. I'm, oh, that was really good. I love pizza. And then just go right back onto your normal diet.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's not sustainable if you go completely off of every food that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Some people can. I mean, there's a lot of people that can live this healthy lifestyle, whether it's vegan or just generally a healthy diet. I get that. Um, and but for me, as bad as the food I used to eat, I have to still have the flavors. It's just how I incorporate those flavors into my food,
Hmm.
and what I remove out of my diet has been the key for my success. And just
Nice.
understanding it's a long-term game, right? It's not a short-term game. So I can't,
Yeah.
it's not a fad diet. I'm trying to have a diet that really something I can sustain for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
Nice. Yeah, it seems like I'm getting like the vibe that one thing that kind of helped you change and be able to manage it was like a knowledge base where you understood I may not be able to have this tortilla, but I could get a keto friendly one. It tastes very similar, and I could still have a taco and maintain these lifestyle changes. So it wasn't as hard as you thought it maybe would be, just cutting everything out altogether and kind of suffering like, oh, I can't have any tortillas. So you figured out a way to still enjoy the food you love while reaching your health goals at the same time.
Yeah, I did do a lot of research. I mean, almost immediately after I found out, I did a lot of research on foods diabetics can eat, and then again monitoring my blood sugar, and yeah, it took a little bit to kind of understand what the diet was going to look like. Because if you go on and kind of Google a bunch of stuff, yeah, it's really like, okay, plant-based, vegetables, all of this stuff. It's like, okay, well, is that going to be sustainable? It's scary, right? When you're going from a terrible diet to, like, oh, I have to eat nothing but veggies and
Mhm.
and and do my exercise. Like, that doesn't sound sustainable to me.
Yeah.
For me, it was okay. Well, how do I make these veggies taste good? Okay, well, I can do my veggies in a chili verde, right? So I can do things that, because I actually make this chili verde. I do chili verde with pork. I make the pozole. I'll do it just as a salsa, right? Put it on my eggs. So I've got this killer recipe that I use, and I just incorporated that. But it gives me that flavor, that Mexican
Yeah.
food flavor that I need. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. I heard people could like use smaller plates too. Like if your portions are too big, like, oh, go buy smaller plates because people just want to fill their plate up and then you get a smaller plate. You're still filling the plate up, but it's just smaller. So that could be a tip to some people. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Whatever works, right? I mean, that's whatever can be helpful. I also found snacks that are healthier for my diet, right? So I do pickles.
Oh, nice.
Because I need the crunch.
Yep.
So food is it's sensory, right? It's not just flavor, it's the sensory part of food that has to trigger something in your body, whatever that may be. So I do pickles as my snack. I do shelled peanuts. So I buy a bag of the Dodger peanuts, a couple bags a week I usually will eat, and I'll just snack on those peanuts. At work I have peanuts in my drawer, or some sunflower seeds and some peanuts, and just snack on that. Sometimes that's my breakfast. I just have lunch, and then sometimes even I don't even have dinner. I'll just come home and snack on pickles and peanuts.
Yep.
So it's just finding those things that work for you, that can substitute for chips,
Yeah.
whatever, ice cream, whatever it may be. There's some, low sugar ice creams out there. Um, I bought them, they're good, but I'm again not being a big sugar guy, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
my kids will tend to eat the ice cream before I do, but again, having it just in case I do want it, it's there. And if I needed a couple, tablespoons of this, carb balanced ice cream, I can have it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right.
I
Well,
like that. I was gonna say I like the fact that you too is about you talk about not being too restrictive, because I've tried that too where I was eating just chicken, broccoli, rice
all right.
for pretty much breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And
So
after a
bland.
while, like you would get to one of those weekends where you're like, oh, I'm gonna have a slice of pizza, and then you end up eating 6 slices instead of just the one, and you're like, damn it. And then you mess up your progress for that week. You're like, all right, well, we'll try it again on Monday. So you got to
Yeah.
have some sort of balance and just kind of be mindful about what you're eating. Like I could have a few Skittles, I just can't eat the whole bag. Like
Mhm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's the hard part with any diet. Even when I used to, we all try to diet, right? And
Yeah.
whether you're trying to get in shape for summer, or, going on
Mhm.
vacation, or whatever. Um, I, it was just one meal that would trigger me. I'd go and I'd be like, you know what? I feel like a burrito. I had a burrito. Okay, well, you know what? The next day, well, I had that burrito a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Now I'm
Mhm.
gonna go get a burger. I know I'll get back on it after, and then all of a sudden you just forget about your diet. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I do that
um,
too.
that's the mental part of food, though. Your brain tells you that hey, you can do that,
It's
and
okay.
it's hard. It's very, very hard. It's just, again, having a focus on whatever it may be. For me, it was my family.
Mm.
For others, it might be just being fit, whatever it may be. Uh, just general overall health is could be your reason for doing it, but um, yeah, just pick something, focus in on it, and hopefully that helps you.
Yes, sir. That's like, all right. Steven, do you have any other questions? You're trying to wind down here.
I think I asked all the ones I wanted to ask. Very
Oh, yeah.
insightful.
Anything
Yeah,
else?
I actually want to congratulate you guys on doing this. I think it's helpful for people to hear messages from people like myself. I've listened to a couple of your podcasts, and
Thank you.
I love what you guys are doing. I love the changes you've made in your life, the healthy changes, the focus that you've both had, inspire me, right? Stephen, doing your ice bath challenges, and those are all inspirations. I can't say that didn't help me with my journey, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
see that focus, and the hiking, all the stuff you guys are doing. It's like I see that from the background, and I'm like, well, why can't I change my lifestyle, right? If these guys can, stop drinking, or doing these huge lifestyle changes, I can do the same thing. So I
Yeah.
applaud you guys for doing a podcast. I think it's nice that you're focusing on getting people's stories out there. So
Mhm.
congratulations.
Yeah, I always
Thank
tell
you.
Steven,
Appreciate that.
yeah, appreciate it. Tell Steven all the time, like, yeah, the power of the story, like ever since the beginning of time, that's what humans used to convey messages throughout generations as stories. So like that's one of the most powerful things you could do. And I know that you're putting your story out here today. So because you want to help others as well, because you never know who you can affect, and it can affect multiple people. And there's other people that might not ever say anything that are watching this podcast today, and they'll be inspired, and they'll live another 10, 20, 30 years because of your story. So that's why we're doing it. And I appreciate you telling your story.
Yeah,
No,
same
thank
here.
you guys for allowing me to tell the story. Yeah, thank you.
All righty.
And I like the fact that you brought up, that you don't consider yourself like, I'm not special. I'm your every average day guy, but you just had that why and you made it big enough to kind of make the changing process bearable. So, I kind of think it's like that with whatever your goal is, find a why that you can anchor yourself to. So when times get hard, you have that why to remind yourself of why you're starting and why you're doing it in the first place. So, yeah, congratulations on you and kind of getting your diabetes under control. Like, that's a big achievement.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
All right. Well, with that, we'll say goodbye to the audience. And if you like this podcast, share it to somebody with diabetes or somebody that in your family that is struggling with this, so maybe it could help them. And we appreciate you guys for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.